Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Art Side of Life, where it's all about how you can turn your creative passion into a profession. My name is Eva, and my guest today is an illustrator, concept artist, and teacher based in Utah, United States. For the last 15 years, he has worked on everything from animated films to comics to picture books and many other things. He has worked for Blue Sky Studios, Google, Marvel, Disney Animation, Warner Brothers Animation, and others. Now he freelances out of his home studio. He is also a passionate teacher. He co-founded the Society of Visual Storytelling, where he teaches art fundamentals as well as details about different topics. He is a creator of Inktober challenge, happening every October, and it's all about doing one ink drawing a day for entire month. Since 2009, he has attracted interest of millions of artists and followers with this art challenge. So please welcome Jake Parker, and let's jump to the interview. So welcome everyone to the next episode of Art Side of Life, and I'm super excited to have Jake here. Hi!
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here and taking time from your busy schedule and especially preparing for Inktober soon.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yep, getting excited for that.
Yeah, you already did some videos, right? On YouTube now, just to, as an intro.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Just trying to get more people interested and just, I guess, educate people on what it is as well. Because there's still a lot of people that are like not exactly sure what the challenge is about and what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, really nice. And let's start then with your background before we talked about the current projects and everything. Maybe you can share some of your stories from childhood when you have been like creative for the first time, or which were the creative outlets?
Yeah, so I've always drawn. It's always been a thing that I've done ever since I was little. The story goes that when I was really, really little, barely could hold a pencil, 2 or 3 years old. My mom said that I drew a picture of her, just the outline of her sewing machine. And she saw that. She can't find that drawing anymore. It somehow got thrown away or lost or something. But she remembers seeing that and thinking, oh, this kid has figured out, to put down on paper what he's seeing. And so both her and my father nurtured that all growing up and made sure I had plenty of paper and markers to draw with. We didn't have a ton of money, but if they got surplus paper, my mom worked at a school, so if there's extra paper, she'd bring it home, and I'd draw on that, and so that was great. And then I had a friend growing up whose mom was an artist, and so she would give us art lessons and teach us how to do, how to unlock our brains so that we could not just, think more creatively, but draw more creatively and draw the things that we see and just really taught us how to look at things and how to visualize things on paper. So that was always interesting. And by the time I got to, my early 20s, I'd drawn so much that I felt like I had reached a level where I could try and get a job. And I was still going to school, and I was able to get a job while I was at school working in an animation studio. And so that's kind of my background. As soon as I got that job in the animation studio, I've just been working professionally ever since, different jobs all through the years and taking on different projects and things like that.
And going back to your friend's mom or your parents, what was the best lesson they taught you when you were a child or a teenager?
I would say, I can't pinpoint any particular lesson or something that, really stuck out to me. But the thing that I think I take away from that time period was that it was safe to be creative, and it was safe to explore and to do things that maybe didn't directly relate to a future profession or didn't directly relate to making money or anything like that. But it was a safe place for me to grow up and and be creative and explore and try things out. And I think that's what's really helped me in my career going forward is I still take time out to do things that may not, add up, the numbers may not add up. And, that hour spent here may not equal to this many dollars in my bank account, but it is something that maybe tangentially helps me accomplish another task or helps me unlock a problem that I'm having somewhere else. So I would say that would be the main thing I pulled from that.
And did you also receive something like a worst advice, or maybe you see that young artists or creators are getting like this bad advice now around you?
Yeah, so I will say this. I did, when I was a senior in high school, I really started to worry. This is my last year in high school. I started to worry, what was I actually going to do for a job? What was I going to do for a living? This is when you figure out what you're going to major in college, or what college you're going to go to. What are you going to study? And I didn't know anybody who was a professional artist I didn't know anybody working professionally in art as an artist or making money with their art, except for, my art teachers, but they were teaching art. They weren't creating art very much. And I knew one guy who was an illustrator, but he illustrated, collectible plates and things like that, kind of kitsch stuff. And that really wasn't what I was into. And so I didn't know what to do. And I asked this girl I knew, I asked her father, who was an architect. I said, maybe architect, is that a creative field? Is that something I could do for a job? And he said, don't be an architect. Whatever you do not become an architect. And so that was kind of eye-opening to me that just because what I traditionally thought might be a creative job, designing buildings or working on things like that, from his perspective, didn't necessarily mean it was something that actually would fit my personality and the things that I wanted to do. So again, that's not bad advice. That I took his advice. I didn't become an architect, but I still kind of wandered around a little bit trying to figure out what I'd do. I knew I had to take some art classes and get better as an artist in college. And so I started doing that. But I think the main thing for me was just exploring and being open to different opportunities. I had an art teacher who's my high school art teacher. I went back to visit him and I asked him, I showed him my artwork and my portfolio and I said, what can I do with this? How do you think that things are going? How do you like it? And he told me that I could stay in school if I wanted to, but my portfolio was good enough that I could probably try and get a job at an entry-level position at this animation studio. And so I thought, well, why not? I got nothing else to lose. I'll take his advice, and I went and did that. And long story short, they hired me. They saw my work that they liked, and they hired me. And so I had to choose between, do I finish school or do I take this job? And so I decided school will always be there. School's not going away, but this job could possibly not be here when I'm done with school, or who knows, what opportunities. So I thought I'll just take this job now and do it as long as it lasts, and then I can always go back to school, and that's what I did.
Yeah. And was he like your mentor or someone who inspired you the most, or did you have other mentors you kind of remember like as the person?
Yeah, he I would say he was a mentor, along with, in that I never looked at it to him as a mentor, and that word was never used, but he was a guiding person in my life who was sort of directing me and helping me up to that point. After that, I looked to other people as mentors. Everywhere that I've worked since then, I've always looked at and wanted to be close to people who were far better than me, and just learn from them and try to get help with my stuff from them, try to help them with their stuff. And so for me, a mentor apprentice sort of thing, though those words are never used, it is very transactional. I will help you do a thing, or I'll be, on some level, you will benefit from me, and hopefully I can benefit from you as well, from your experience and from the things that you're doing. So
And
yeah.
and at the time, did you wanted to work for an animation studio, or it was just a suggestion? What did you have in the portfolio? Was it like the same thing what you work on now, like these type of characters, or was it something else?
Yeah, so it was a lot of character design type of stuff. The job I ended up doing was basically an animation assistant. I was an in-betweener, and I would just help the animators finish drawing their scenes. And that really wasn't the thing that I was like always wanting to do. I always wanted to do comic books, but I always loved animation. I always thought animation was cool. And so when I got that job, I thought, maybe I will work up to becoming an animator, and that'll be my career. I could become an animator. And after doing that job for a couple of years, I realized I didn't want to be an animator. I didn't really like what I was doing. I did want to do the concept art and the visual development. And so I spent a lot of time on work breaks and before and after work talking to the guys in those departments and learning from them and showing them my work and getting feedback on my work. And then a couple of jobs after that, I actually started working as a concept artist based on their advice and their input on my portfolio.
Oh, perfect. And so which were kind of like the biggest decision points or turning points, which they get you when you are now? Because you mentioned when you started in this animation studio. Can you mention some other big points of your art career?
Yeah, so a couple of years after I got that job, the studio shut down and they laid everybody off and we all lost our jobs. And so I thought, well, that was my one opportunity. I guess I'm going to go back to school. I still need, in that time, I also got married. We had a kid on the way, and I needed still to provide, to bring in some sort of income. And this is really important. This thing changed everything for me. I went and interviewed at a job that was a call center. So I'd just be calling people on phones, and it had nothing to do with anything artistic, but it would make pretty good, okay money, right? Compared to what I was doing. And I went to the job and I sat down in the interview with the guy who was interviewing me, and he looked at my resume and it saw that, I'd studied art and I was an artist at this animation studio, and it was very much a creative things that I was doing. And he said, "Are you sure that you want this job?" And I said, there's nothing in your resume that really leads me to believe that this is like the job for you. And I said, you know what? You're right. I don't want this job. And he said, well, I guess we're done here. And I said, yeah, thank you for your time. Sorry. And I went home and I was kind of depressed. And I told my wife what happened. And she said, you know what? There's a natural history museum down the street from us, from where we were living there in Arizona. And they had been building onto the museum, and they were doubling the size of the museum, and they were adding a dinosaur wing. They wanted dinosaur bones and all these different exhibits. And she said they've been working on this, and maybe they need an artist. I don't know what for, maybe to do murals or something like that. She said, why don't you just go down there, show them your work, and say, do you need an artist? Could I help? And I went down there, and they hired me on the spot. And they said, yes, we could use your help. We've got two other guys working. They need an assistant. And right then and there, that's the lesson I learned. And I realized there's always work for an artist. Always. If you're willing to do the work, there might not be always the work you want to do for an artist, but there's always creative work that needs to be done for people. And you're going to get better as an artist, even if you're doing stuff that isn't directly the thing you want to do. And I learned a lot from these guys that I was assisting, and I learned a lot from working at this museum, and it fostered a deeper love and appreciation for dinosaurs and for ancient history and for all those. I mean, that job, and it was only just for a summer, but it really shaped me, and it helped me to to work on my portfolio more and to look for interesting and different opportunities as an artist. And it's served me ever since then. Everywhere I look, I realize there's a hole that an artist could fill. And, if I stop doing what I'm doing now, I could go do that thing. So there's always going to be that work.
And over the years of creating your own branding and like the vision and mission, what you are communicating through your art, what was like the biggest thing you learned, or maybe how do you approach branding yourself now?
So my brand, I would say my mission or my personal manifesto is divided into three things. And number one, it's provide for my family, provide some sort of stable lifestyle for my family with my art. Number two, it's to create something that matters in the world, or something that inspires, or that people can look to for whether it's entertainment or something that just changes the world in some small way. Okay, so provide and then create something cool. And then the third one is to help people to be able to do those two things as well. Okay, so when I sit down and think about what am I going to do today, or what am I going to do this week, it's always through that filter. Okay, what do I need to do to make money? All right, so once that question has been answered, okay, now what am I going to do to make something cool, to put something cool into the world? All right, now what am I going to do to help other people? And so the money thing is usually whatever current project I'm working on that's bringing in money, or whatever revenue streams that I've built for myself. The cool thing is usually the project that I've taken on, and sometimes those overlap. Yeah. Or I might launch a Kickstarter for a book I want to do, or I might just be slowly building a body of work that I can someday publish somehow. And then the third thing is, do I put out a YouTube video today that discusses some sort of topic that I think could help artists, or do I work on do I do some sort of Instagram story or a tweet or something like that helps somebody? And so that's really how I map out what I'm going to do from a day-to-day or a week-to-week basis is how do I fulfill those three things.
And maybe let's talk about the Inktober now, or Inktober, and so how this came to be, and what is your mission there?
All right, so the initial idea for Inktober came about in 2009. I was working with a bunch of artists at Blue Sky Animation Studios, and one of my artist friends there had a really cool brush pen that he got from Japan, and I loved the way he drew with it, and I asked if I could borrow it and try it out, and I used it, and I realized I wasn't super good at the pen, but I wanted to get better at it. And so I decided that I was going to challenge myself to draw straight every day, a drawing a day with this pen, to get better at inking, and do it for 30 days for about a month. And this was around August or September, and I thought, well, let's turn it into a challenge and give it a clever name. And I said, how about I do Inktober, and set it up in October, and how about I announce it as a thing that I'm doing and other people can join me as well. And so the first year I was pretty much the only person who did it. There's a few other people who kind of, popped in once in a while and did a few drawings. And there was I guess, somewhat influential blog in the artist community called drawn.ca, and they picked it up and said, hey, look what Jake Parker's doing. And what was cool about that is it got a lot of eyes on me showing what I was doing, and I did the entire month and called it good. And the next year rolled around, and I thought, should I do it again? Yes, I should definitely do it again. It was a lot of fun last year. I should do it again this year. But I ended up having an accident that second year where I hurt myself, and I couldn't work on it for that month. So I skipped 2010. But I was back at it in 2011, 2012, kept doing it. And every year more people started to do it. And it really didn't explode and take off until a lot of artists started getting on Instagram and Twitter and started using hashtags. There was a time that people didn't use hashtags or even know what hashtags were. It was around 2013 that hashtags started to become really ubiquitous and everybody was using them. And I introduced the Inktober hashtag, and I introduced the official rules, and I said, here's how you do it. You draw a drawing, you post it online, you use the Inktober hashtag. And what I've seen from there on out has been, what is it? It doubles the amount of growth every year. So,
cool.
In 2013, I think 300,000 people posted an image on Instagram under the Inktober hashtag.
Yeah.
In 2014, it was, 600,000. Then it was 1 million. And last year, 2016, Inktober hashtag had 1.5 million people, or 1.5 million posts with the 2017 Inktober hashtag. So it's really taken off, and it's gotten to the point where people just think it exists, and that there's nobody like leading it or trying to
started it or something, yeah.
Right, or started it. When I go do a speaking engagements at schools or whatnot, I'll say, I'll just say, I want to familiarize myself with the audience, and I ask them, how many of you have seen my work before, have heard of me before? 20 hands will raise up. And then I'll say, how many of you have heard of Inktober or have participated in Inktober? And 100 hands will raise up. And then I'll say, okay. And then I'll, tell the story of Inktober. And a lot of people don't know that I had anything to do with it. Now, as far as the mission and the purpose of Inktober I've benefited from it, and I've gotten so much better at my craft because of this challenge. And it's fostered a desire or actually fostered habits in me to create daily and to draw daily. And that's really what I want Inktober to do for the artist community. Is I want people to create drawing habits where they're thinking creatively each day, they're drawing each day, and they're sharing their work each day. People tell me so often they'll say that Inktober changed their life, that they weren't creative, they lost their creative spark, and it helped them to find that spark again. And they weren't very good at drawing, but by the end of Inktober, they felt like they were so much better at drawing. And even a more practical level, people have said, I got so many new followers from doing Inktober, and I just from the act of drawing and posting every day, I got 100 new followers or 1,000 new followers this month. So, and then the other cool thing is people collect their drawings and they'll publish little books and put those books out, and then might make some extra money from the books. And every once in a while, I'll get someone mailing me a copy of one of these books that they made. I love them. They're super inspirational to see what people do with it. So yeah, I guess the mission of Inktober is finding your creative spark or maintaining your creativity through a month-long challenge, a 30-day drawing challenge.
Yeah, perfect, because everyone wants to be just part of the community, and also if you see your friends drawing it and then they just join, and then you can compare like, oh, I lasted 10 days or I actually did the whole month, and you can actually challenge yourself, as you mentioned. So definitely great idea. And what about like projects you are working on now, and something exciting coming up, if you can share, which is not maybe confidential anymore?
Yeah, so I have a Christmas book that I worked on. It's called The 12 Sleighs of Christmas, and it's about Santa who his sleigh got trashed, and so the elves all worked together and they designed 12 different sleighs, and they're all like mechanical sleighs, like a hot rod sleigh and a motorcycle sleigh and a snow plow sleigh. And it was a super fun project to work on. So that's coming out for this Christmas season. It was written by Sherry Rinker, published by Chronicle, and drawn by myself, illustrated by myself. Other projects in the works I'm still working on my Skyheart Kickstarter, trying to wrap that up and finish it and hopefully get those books sent out to people, the end of this year or early next year, and that's taking just a lot of my time and working on that as well. So those are like the two main projects, and then I've got a children's book that I'm working on here, another thing I'm working on there, and then one thing I'm really proud about, and thing I've been working on a lot lately is classes for svslearn.com. Mm-hmm. And this is an online school that I started with a couple of the artists, Will Terry and Lee White, and we just teach a lot of the fundamentals and a lot of the basics of art, and then we get into a lot more details of like how do you compose a picture, how do you mm-hmm. design a book cover, how do you illustrate a children's book, and so there's classes there for everybody that ranges from the beginners to the intermediates to mm-hmm. some of the more advanced artists as well. So that's been a true labor of love, and also it's also been able to provide somewhat of a financial base for me as well over the years, teaching the classes.
And how are the classes structured? Do you sign up for like a month, or you choose like one class, which is, I don't know, like few weeks, or how does it work?
Yeah, so all the classes are pre-recorded, mm-hmm. and you have the option to buy a class mm-hmm. and own it, mm-hmm. and you can watch it whenever you want, or you could subscribe. It's kind of how you would subscribe to Netflix. Mm-hmm. So you can subscribe to SVS and just watch whatever class you want, whenever you want, as long as you're subscribed to it. So
perfect.
Those are your two options.
So we can put link in the show notes so people can check mm-hmm. it up and sign up. And what about the income streams? As you mentioned already, what is your main income streams? One, or do you, like as you said, combine from different sources, so you have the table with more legs?
Yeah, exactly. So SVS is an income stream for me. My online shop is mm-hmm. an income stream. Children's books, the advances that I get from children's books, and then also the royalties from those is another income stream. And then any sort of odd freelance jobs that I take on here and there, those also are my another stream of income. And between those 4 or 5 things, every few years I might launch a Kickstarter as well, and that will pay for some things. But that's pretty much where I'm at with income. There's also every once in a while I'll do get some now that I have such a sizable online following, mm-hmm. I'll get some influencer people who want me to promote a project mm-hmm. or promote a product mm-hmm. that they're selling. So I get a lot of like free art supplies from that. But I can also make money from affiliate links mm-hmm. and things like that as well. So
really nice.
So yeah, that's pretty much how I support myself now.
So that's good that you can like spread it out, and just if something will be lost or changed, then you are still okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you do networking now, or kind of finding new paid projects or creating your own? Because it was probably different at the beginning when you didn't have like a big following. And so mm-hmm. how is it compared to that? And maybe what would you advise people if they want to create their own following or just do the networking?
Mm-hmm. So as far as building a following, I think people are really attracted to consistency. So mm-hmm. if you're consistently always posting your work online, and people are also really attracted to projects. Like if you tell people that this is a thing that you're making, this is a thing that you're working on, and you invite them to join you in that endeavor mm-hmm. and to follow you making this thing, I think that's a good way to build a following, because people, it's inherently there's a story there. Mm-hmm. You're establishing, you as the main character, and you're establishing this problem that you're trying to solve. And people love to see if those problems are going to get solved, and they love to see if this character is going to triumph and conquer this problem. And so if you announce, you're a student and say, I'm in my 3rd year of art school, my goal is to get a job at Disney, animating, and follow me on this path, and we'll see if if I can get there, and we can get there together, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is, hey, I work a day job, but my true passion is children's books, and this is a children's book story that's been in me for so many years. And you know what? I'm just going to make it. Who wants to follow me as I make this children's book, and just post online the progress as you make this children's book? It might take a year, it might take 2 years or 5 years to do both of these things. Try to get a job or to try to make this thing. But people, slowly and surely, as they see you consistently posting online, will want to follow that, and they'll want to see how that, what happens, and if you accomplish this thing, and when you actually do accomplish it, and when you actually do win, that's going to be a huge thing that gives people to talk about, and will also add more people to your followership. Now, as far as how do you network and get work, I think it comes from that. Someone might see that you're this student who's actively learning and getting better and showing progress, and they might see something in your work that they really like, and you might get called up by some smaller company that says, we're not Disney, but we see potential here in you, and we'd like, to see if you're available for this one project. So there's that. And then there's also the best networking strategy is to actually go out and make friends in the industry that you want to work with. Yeah. True, genuine friendships, and know that nothing should ever come, or you shouldn't expect anything to come from that friendship initially, or for the first year, and really, if you're doing it right, you are making real friends, and you're not making, building this network of people that you can just use. But what happens is you have these friends, and they have jobs somewhere, and they're working on a thing, and they realize, there's this hole that needs to be filled at the studio, and they think, I wonder who could fill this. Oh, this person right here could do it. Let's call them and ask them and see if they're available. Every job that I've gotten has been because of three things. Number one, I had the abilities to do it. So I was able to, and I proved that I could do the job. Mm-hmm. Number two, I knew people that worked at this place, or they knew me. Yeah. Maybe not personally, but they knew my work somehow, or they knew me from somebody else. And number three, timing or luck. It just happened that they needed me at the right time that I needed them.
Yeah, perfect. I love that. Yeah, because it's necessary to have a good network and just like friends, and you never know. Or also, maybe it's not artistic friend. You can meet them playing volleyball, and maybe their friend need artists. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. And what about like your projects and timing, and how do you design your day? Because as you said, you do so many things. So do you do something daily which contributes to your success, like sport or meditation, or do you have some special planning?
So I like running. I don't run every day. I run a few times a week. And running is a good way for me to sort things out. It's like almost a meditation, where I get to just sort things out and think things through, and prioritize what's important. I also keep a planner. I'm pretty strict about my planner. I'm just going to hold it up to our Skype camera here. You can see what I do with the planner. Yeah. What I do with the planner is I record everything that I do day in and day out. So if I spend a half hour answering email, I write down the planner. Spend a half hour answering email. If I spent 20 minutes watching YouTube videos, I write that in there. And what that happens is when I go to plan the next week, I can look at my past week, or I look at the past few weeks and see, I know how long it takes for me to do this thing. I know when I'm more productive and when I'm less productive, and I could see patterns of, wow, I was really creative in the mornings here, so let's plan creative activities or things that I need to get done with creativity in the mornings in the future, and let's construct our day so that when I am physically exhausted, I save my, YouTube watching for that, so it's not interrupting my creative time. So there's that. So there's the physical thing of running. There's the mental thing, I guess, of planning the day out. And then I also try to take out time each day to read a book. I'm always reading some sort of book, and I usually take notes from the book or try to pull something that I'm learning from the book. Even if it's a fiction book about whatever, there's still things that you can learn from either story structure or what the author's trying to say with their characters. But I do also like to read a lot of like not self-help, but like self-improvement books as well. It's like that.
Like Tools of the Titans by Tim Ferriss. Have you read that?
I have it on my desk right there. I haven't read the entire book. That's a good book to like see someone that you're interested in learning about and reading that thing, and then popping over here and reading this. And yeah, I don't think it's meant to be read like cover to cover. So.
No, it's just like you can pin verse like, okay, I like this or like that. And yeah. And can you share some other books you like, maybe some artistic books or something you would give as a gift?
So I just gave this book as a gift to a friend of mine. It's called Deep Work by Cal Newport. And it's a book about, I guess, strategies and the argument for staying focused and working in a focused manner in a society that's getting much more distracted. Yeah. So I was just reading through that this morning and found some really, really nice tidbits of knowledge in there as well.
I read that one as well. It's really good. Yeah, so I totally agree.
It's a good one.
And when you said also with the scheduling in your notebook, do you use also the digital tools or software like Toggle? I use Toggle for that. When you can record your activities and it actually kind of like tracks your like time, how much you spend on each.
Yeah, I'm very much an analog person. I'm at that age where the internet, I didn't grow up with the internet. I didn't really get an email address until I was 21, I think. Yeah. And so I'm very much used to handwriting things down and owning physical copies of things and writing in physical books and taking notes on paper and things like that. And so I think that's always just going to be a part of me. And so I always prefer to work that way as opposed to, and I've tried the digital stuff before and I was the early adopter of like, the digital planners, you could put in your pocket and things like that. But I always come back to having a piece of paper or having a book or having some sort of thing that I physically write. And so that's what I use. And I figured, why fight it anymore? Just embrace it fully. And if there is a digital tool that becomes irresistible and I can't live without it, then of course I'm going to adopt it. But for the most part, I haven't found anything that's really been necessary.
Cool. And well, do you have like a favorite pen or favorite traditional tools?
I really, really, really like the Zebra Fude brush pen. This guy right here, and this is it's just a nice brush pen that gives me the kind of lines that I like to make when I draw. And I have a page on my website called it's mrjakeparker.com/tools where I list like all my favorite tools that I use.
Perfect.
So if people are interested in where to buy it and how to get it, then they can go there and click on the link and get it from Amazon.
Nice. So we can put the link to your website as well, so they can go directly there and check all the resources you have. And if you think about like something you wish you knew before you started your whole art career, is there something you would give as advice to young self?
I would advise my younger self to really embrace hard work and embrace like, I haven't distilled this into the exact like soundbite that I want it to be yet, but I'm a lazy person and I'm always fighting against that laziness. And I think, there's always in me just wanting to not work. And so, but I've been able to cope with that and overcome that in this last decade of my life. And what I would love to tell my 20-year-old self is, you're lazy and you're dumb and stupid. So go work hard and go learn about things, and know that anything is accessible to you if you're willing to put in the work and willing to learn about it. And it took me a lot of years to realize that. And a lot of years I kind of just glided and kind of just, coasted along on my talent, I guess, and didn't really put forth the effort to try to get better at certain things and try to learn and grow in my understanding of certain things.
Yeah. And would you consider that there was something like the worst career moment so far, or like a difficult time in your art career, and what you learned from it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say this is the worst, but there was one time where I had reached a level of success that, standing back and if my younger self saw this, would be super proud. And what it was I had published a graphic novel with a major publisher, and that was like, who could ask for anything more than that? But for me, it wasn't enough, because it wasn't like a New York Times bestseller, and it wasn't selling amazingly well, and it wasn't making a ton of money. And so for me, on the one hand, like, you got a book published, not only did you finish a book, but you got it published. And I hung a lot of my, I guess, my understanding of success on more of the accolades than more on just the work that I was getting done. And so I had to, I guess what really shifted my understanding and made me realize it's not about how much money the book makes or how well it sells or anything like that. It's about, are you able to touch people's lives or influence people's with the thing that you made, even if it's just a few people. And what helped me understand that, and what helped me realize, was I got an email from a woman who said that that her son's favorite book was Missile Mouse, and this was the book that I came out with. And here I was, like, thinking it wasn't, only a few people loved it, and it wasn't that big a thing. But she said this was her son's favorite thing, and she said that he was diagnosed with cancer, and it was really the only thing that not the only thing, but one of the few things that gave him like comfort and took his mind off of, that hardship. Nice. And right then and there, I realized, like, okay, it didn't sell a ton of copies. It didn't reach the New York Times bestseller list, but this book made an impact in that kid's life. And if that's all it did, then why should I complain that it didn't do more than that, right?
Amazing.
And so from there on out, I realized, do the best you can at making a thing, work the hardest you can at promoting that thing and trying to get it out there and sell it, and then whatever happens, let that happen, and don't focus on it, and just keep moving forward on the next thing and making that next thing. And because they're really, for me, many years it was realizing that, and this is actually, somewhat cliche, but it really is about the journey, not the destination, right? And it took me a long time to realize that if you're not enjoying the daily grind of making the thing that you're making, then what's the point? Because if you're just working towards that final outcome could totally not deliver. Yeah. It could not be that thing that gives you everything you dreamed of. And so then you've not only not enjoyed creating it, and now you're not enjoying the fruits of your creation. So at least get to the point where you're enjoying creating it daily and working on it daily. And then whatever happens at the end there, you'll that's just bonus.
Yeah, because exactly as you said, you might be disappointed if you're working years to get to studio you want, and then you get there and you're like, okay, so what now?
Right,
So
exactly.
yeah, and my last two questions are about the future, and I would like to know how would you imagine your dream scenario from like 5 to 10 years? What would you be doing? What are the projects? And the last question is about far future, and I would like to know what would you like to be remembered for in like 100 years?
Mm. Okay, so the 10-year plan, the 10-year future thing, I would like to, um, I would really like to be doing what I'm doing now, working on the things that I'm working on, but let me think about that. That I would like to be a little less. I want you to edit this humming and hawing
Okay.
out.
I will make you look smart.
I appreciate that. So in 10 years, what I would like to see, or what I envision, what would be the ideal thing, would still be working on the things that I'm working on now. That is having a personal project that I'm developing and working on, still helping and teaching people, and and still, I guess, having some autonomy and some independence by selling things through my online shop or through something like that. I'm really happy with where I am right now, and I wouldn't like very much to change. I would just like the projects to be a little bit more successful. I would like everything where it is now, but just a little bit more successful, so that there isn't much worry about, is this going to bring in the amount of money that I needed to bring in to survive? Is this, just to have a little bit more, I guess, appeal with people in the thing that I'm doing, and enjoying the thing that I'm doing just as much as I'm doing it now.
And
is that too much to ask?
No, it's good. It's like, if you really enjoy what you're doing now, that's the best scenario. And then, just not to worry about money, and then you can live where you want, and you can work on the projects you want. That's the perfect thing. And what about 100 years? What do you like to remember for?
Yeah, so in 100 years, I would love it if my great-great-great-granddaughter found a box in the attic and opened it up, and in it she sees all of my sketchbooks and some of the books that I've worked on, and she sees my journals and she sees my notebooks, and I would love it if that was like something that she was really into, and it helped her to want to be creative and want to create things, and want to, and just find kinship in a long lost ancestor, and inspire her to go out and to make her own stories, and to draw her books, and to and to write her stories.
Wonderful. And before we say goodbye, maybe you can share a last piece of advice or a guidance, and then we will finish.
Okay, so this is something this is a mantra to me that I live by, and I try to help people understand this as well. And the people who do understand this, I think, have more success in what they're doing. And that is, it's 3 words: finished, not perfect. And what I mean by that is, it's more important that you finish things than strive for perfection. And I think perfection actually comes, I should say, strive for perfection at the cost of finishing things. I think you should strive for perfection, but not so much so that you never finish a thing, okay? And so that perfection comes to us as creators by finishing things. Every time you finish something, you have a set of failures that happened, but also a set of successes. And those things combined are what teaches us to how to improve and how to get better. And the more you finish something, the more that you put a thing out there and it's got your stamp on it that says this is finished and I approve of this, the closer you're going to get to perfection someday. So to put it succinctly again, finish, not perfect. Just keep reminding yourself that. Try and finish your thing. Don't worry about perfection right now. Perfection is going to come later.
Awesome. And everyone can check out also your video, which you made on this topic, right, on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So we can put a link to that as well there. And thank you so much for being here. And it was so much fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it.
Perfect. And thank you everyone for joining, and see you in the next episode. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and let me know in comments. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more videos because I post new interview every single workday. You can also find the resources mentioned in this episode at artsideoflife.com. Just type a guest name in the search bar. There is also a little freebie waiting for you, so go check it out. If you want to listen to the interviews on the go, make sure to check out the podcast episodes at artsideoflife.com/podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and don't forget to inspire each other. I will see you guys in the next episode.